Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I'm Ruth Shelley, Vice President of the Rotary Club of Portland. Welcome to our live weekly membership meeting. This year's theme for Rotary International is Rotary Opens Opportunities. As we've heard all year, Rotary indeed does open opportunities to find solutions for today's challenges. Healing from the pandemic, recovery from the economic downturn, and peace building as we seek racial justice. We think especially of our friends in Boulder today as we contemplate peace building and take a moment just to share our thoughts and prayers with the victims of the recent shooting, another horrific incident. But as we go through door number 3, peace building, we look toward a brighter side of peace building as we hear from fellow Rotarian Leslie Brunker about her world travels. First, let's welcome Rotarian Kim Cash for our reflection. Kim?
Thank you, Ruth. Good morning, Rotarians. Happy Women's History Month. If you're active on LinkedIn, you might be seeing a lot of posts of that are by women and men of powerful professional women being lifted up. And sometimes I wonder, is this a good thing? We're normalizing professional women, or are we alienating people? But I like celebrating people, any chance, any opportunity, and want to lift up Rukaya Adams today because of her quote that I'm going to leave you with. I did a diversity, equity, and inclusion summit last week for 2.5 hours virtually. I was the moderator. And we had an intentional panel with a couple men and a couple Black men, a couple white Black women, some white women, and very intentional, trying to get a diverse panel. And I was the moderator, and I was struggling a little bit with being assertive enough in a virtual environment. You don't have all the cues for who's next in a very conversational approach. And we got toward the end, and one of the guys was taking a little more space, and so I said, let's do a round robin. We've only got 3 minutes left. And instead of saying it that way, I asked it as a question. And I'm like, oh, why did I make that a question? Why do women do this? And then one woman raised her hand. Yes, she wanted to do that. And I started calling on her, and then another man just spoke right up, as men often do. And he had amazing things to say, so I'm glad he did. And he went long, and he took up a lot of space. And I thanked him. And then I called on the woman who had her hand up, and she was very cognizant of time and space. I'm not always. Then I called on the other woman, and she talked for a little while, had good things to say. And finally, with no prep at all, I sent the ball to Rukaya Adams, and I said, you have 10 seconds. So just so you know, Rukaya Adams grew up in Northeast Portland. She went to Stanford, could not, top of her class at Stanford, didn't get a job at an investment firm in Portland, but now is the chief investment officer for Meyer Memorial Trust. And she was part of this diversity panel, and fabulous. And I just gave her 10 seconds to close the whole summit without any warning. And this is what she left us with. And she said, don't grow a wishbone where your backbone ought to be. And that's what I wanted to leave my fellow Rotarians with today, and to celebrate a very powerful local Portland woman. Thank you.
Kim, that's wonderful. Don't grow a wishbone where your backbone ought to be. We will remember Rukaya's wisdom as we go into this week. And if you'd like to volunteer to give a reflection, please email Siobhan directly. That was a great one, Kim. Thank you. Now I'd like to ask that Rotarians who have invited a guest to raise their real or virtual hand, and Jackie will call on you to unmute or introduce them. Or if you're a visiting Rotarian who came on your own, please raise your hand and introduce yourself, or let us know of your presence via the chat box. Jackie, do we have any guests today?
It doesn't look like it. I'm scrolling through the screens. Just wave your hand. Any guests? Looks like not today.
Well, we welcome all of our veteran Rotarians, and we'll see if anyone joins us during the course of the meeting. Now we move on to board elections. Thank you to everyone who voted for our slate of nominees. We now have, I'm happy to say, 3 new members of the club board. Our new members are Curtis Shirey, Blake St-Onge, and Patsy Feeman. Congratulations to all 3 of you, and we look forward to your official service starting in July, although we have already got you in the group to be talking about our bridge plan moving forward. Again, Curtis, Blake, and Patsy, we're so happy that you're part of the new board. And now, please welcome Curtis himself to talk about this month's Committee of the Month, Enterprise Academy. Curtis Shirey.
Thank you, President Ruth, and thank you so much for introducing me as a member of the board. I'm really excited to serve with my fellow Rotarians here. But regarding the Enterprise Academy, obviously, many of you have heard that Enterprise Academy is an annual camp that we put on. We bring together a super diverse population of students from around the Portland area, split them into groups and try to have them develop business plans and really have them compete against each other. It's an awesome experience. With that being said, with COVID, obviously, like everybody else, we've had to make some adjustments. One of those adjustments going forward for this year is to make sure that we're still able to have a camp, because we think that does bring value, but doing that in a way that's obviously safe for all our campers, as well as the volunteers we have that we have going to that. We're doing that by having a virtual camp just with a smaller selection of students from Portland Public Schools. Still trying to figure out a lot of what's going to go on with that. Obviously, it's a very fluid situation. With that being said, we are going to need volunteers, whether that be mentors to assist in that camp, whether that be speakers to give their own professional advice, and really volunteers going forward as we get back to our in-person camps as well in years to come. So if anybody has any interest in getting involved with that, please reach out to myself or reach out to Michael Kuhn, who is the chair, or Mario Bunich, who is the other co-chair there. But thank you so much. Again, I look forward to serving on the board here, and looking forward to get back into person and meeting with everybody face to face. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Curtis, and thank you for your leadership with Enterprise Academy. And now let's go into our breakout rooms. We're going to disappear and enter a virtual table talk. As always, please introduce yourselves to the others in your group, and a minute or so before you come back to this main meeting, you'll get a visual heads up. If the conversation flows, you're more than free to chat about whatever you like. But if you're stuck, here's a suggestion for a topic inspired by Leslie's talk. If you were able to go anywhere in the world post-pandemic, where would it be and why? Here we go. And now on to our program. After our speaker today is finished, if you'd like to ask Leslie a question, Jackie will moderate the Q&A through the chat box. And now, please welcome Rotarian Al Juvitz as today's chair of the day. Al?
Thank you, Ruth. When I was asked to introduce Leslie, I got all enthusiastic about that because she is really cool. But I was thinking, when you think enthusiastic, you think of Scott Burns. And so imagine me as Scott being very enthusiastic about this introduction. Okay, you all set? So today we hear from one of our own club members, Leslie Brunker. And we understand in this, hopefully, that how she ticks. As she tells the stories of her wanderings, yes, wanderings to all corners of the planet we call Earth, including 6 Rotary conventions, 2 friendship exchanges, 2 humanitarian projects, one of which our club is part of, the Global Grant down in Bogota, Colombia. And so she likes to travel. It's not hard to love Leslie for her kind and compassionate demeanor, her words of wisdom, often from the podium during one of our, what do we call them, Leslie? Our our inspirations. That's the word I was looking for. Her leadership on the Peace Builder Committee over the years has been stellar, and her general cooperative spirit is contagious. Even though our directory lists Leslie as retired, she can be found coaching friends and acquaintances, facilitating or mediating conversations, and saying just the right thing on Zoom calls when things get dicey. Her master's degree in behavioral science serves her and those around her well. I've had the pleasure of attending meetings with Leslie, the Community Peace Collaborative meetings at North Precinct for the past 7 years. Leslie's always there, unless of course she's out wandering around the world, sometimes with a companion, but often solo. Leslie's not afraid of adventure or people or travel to unknown lands. She's not afraid of stating with pride in our bi-weekly interfaith Peace Action Committee meetings, where faith leaders of Portland gather, that she represents atheism, and also with pride Rotary as a member of the Downtown Rotary Club. Just this morning in a meeting with our club president, Ruth, Ruth referred to Leslie as having gumption. And yes, indeed, she has gumption. Please welcome our adventurous, entertaining, and fun to be around world traveler, Leslie Brunker.
Thank you. Wow, Al. I feel so spirited. Oh, well, of course, you all know I have a great passion for traveling the world. I love seeing new places and meeting new people. I love what I get to learn and how, if you let it, a travel experience can change you. Since we haven't been able to travel much this last year, I thought it would be fun to share a few of my past travel stories with you all today. My passion for seeing and being in the world started way back in my childhood. My dad was a Rotarian since before I was born. And because we lived on a real working Western cattle ranch in California, my parents thought it would be interesting for visitors from other countries to come out and stay with us. Therefore, we hosted people from many parts of the globe. As a kid, I was fascinated to meet these people. I loved hearing about where people were from, looking at the atlas to see where they lived, hearing stories about their lives, and I really loved listening to their accents. I suppose that's where my interest first arose. Now, when I was 11, I planned my first trip all on my own. We knew a couple who lived in Oregon City, and during the summer that year, I wanted to go visit them and see Oregon. I had written to them and got an invitation to come stay for a few weeks. Then I learned of another family we knew who were taking a road trip to Canada. So I hitched a ride from California to Oregon with them. They dropped me off and they picked me up again on their way back home. While I was in Oregon, I got to go over to the coast and to see Multnomah Falls and to go camping in the mountains. And I sent postcards to my parents from my first travel adventure on my own at age 11. Then when I was a senior in high school, I wanted to go with a friend to Hawaii during our spring break. I asked my dad if I could go if I paid for it myself. My dad said, if you pay for it yourself, you can go anywhere you want to go. Well, that opened up a whole world for me when he said those words. I don't think he realized how much that meant to me. I think he was just being facetious, but. So my friend and I planned a 9-day trip to Hawaii, and we had such a great time. Now, the drinking age in Hawaii in those days was 18, so you can just imagine the adventures we had there. When I graduated from high school, I spent the entire summer traveling around 13 countries in Europe. I took a sleeping bag and camped in the heat, in the rain, and even in the snow up in the Alps. It was such a great adventure, and I'm really glad I did it then. I had taken French language all through high school, and that really helped me quite a bit. By this time, I was smitten with travel and couldn't wait to do more. Of course, I had to work, and I was in college, so I wasn't able to get away as much as I would have loved to. But I did get to celebrate my 22nd birthday in Alexandria, Egypt. And that was super exotic. I've traveled on my own. I've been on guided tours. I've gone on trips with my best friend, Cindy. I've gone on cruises, done humanitarian projects in other countries. I've gone to tropical places and sat on the beach sipping fruity cocktails. I worked on a Rotary project in rural Guatemala where we built a cinder block wall around a school there. We had no power tools to use, so everything was done by hand. We used a hand saw to cut pipe and boards. We mixed concrete with a hand mixer and carried it in buckets. It was good, hard work and so rewarding as we got to know the kids who would be going to school there. They were sweet and playful, and I even managed to rope them into helping us with some of the work. When I was doing my consulting work, for 35 years, I contracted with companies all over the United States. That gave me the opportunity to visit most of the 50 states. I would usually add an extra day or two to a work trip so I could see wherever I was. At this point in time, I've been to 44 of the 50 states. So I'm now doing some planning around visiting the 6 remaining states on my list. I have a bit of an obsession with completion, you see. I've also visited 60 countries on all 7 of the major continents. I've been on the Nile River, the Amazon, the Murrumbidgee in Australia, the Seine, the Thames, the Ganges, the Navua River in Fiji, the Mississippi River, the Rogue, and many other rivers and waters. In the wild, I've seen Bengal tigers in India, ancient tortoises in the Galapagos, kangaroos and koalas in Australia, the few remaining African rhinos in South Africa, dolphins in New Zealand, whales, seals, white lions, penguins, zebras, elephants, rattlesnakes, coral snakes, and tarantulas. I've hiked the most amazing waterfall trails in Brazil, Machu Picchu Mountain in Peru, glaciers in Antarctica, trails at Denali in Alaska, around Lake Chapala in Mexico, rainforests in Vanuatu, jungles in Costa Rica. I've climbed the stairs of the Eiffel Tower, the Spanish Steps in Rome, Giotto's Tower in Florence, the Alhambra in Spain. I even participated in a foot race on the site of the original Olympic Games in Olympia, Greece. I've eaten exotic foods, including fried bugs in Mexico, sheep's brains in Greece, blood soup in Thailand, tripe in Brazil. I have a policy that if someone offers me something when I'm visiting their country, I always at least try it. The fried bugs were crunchy and not really bad tasting. You just have to get past that mental thing. In Thailand, some kids were frying up giant cicadas to snack on one afternoon, and I slipped away so no one could offer them to me. I have a cricket phobia, and cicadas are just close enough that I didn't really want to put one in my mouth. As a single woman, there certainly have been some limiting experiences in some cultures. In India, I could clearly sense that people were not comfortable with me being on my own. I hired a male guide to go around with me during the day, and that helped everyone relax a bit more. But at night, after the guide would leave and I'd go to a restaurant to eat dinner, you'd think I'd become invisible. That was frustrating. When I was in Morocco, I was told not to walk anywhere by myself. Well, that's just not going to work for me. I wasn't going to spend the whole time in my hotel room. One day there was a marketplace I wanted to see, so I walked the 10 blocks or so from my hotel. As I was about to enter the gates to the marketplace, two older women entered in front of me, so I just walked right behind them, pretending to be with them. That worked. When I was walking back to the hotel, I was behind two teenage girls. A man approached them and started walking next to them, talking to them. The girls tried to ignore him, and I could tell they were uncomfortable with this man. I know in their culture, the girls had no recourse. They could not confront him or tell him to leave them alone. They were required by the culture to endure his unwanted advances. Well, I guess you know, that wasn't going to sit well with me. So I sped up my pace a little bit, and I got up even with the girls and placed myself between the man and the girls. I didn't say a word, and I kept looking straight ahead, no confrontation, just blocking his access. I could tell the man, as well as the girls, were confused by my behavior, but I kept walking and I kept looking straight ahead. The man then got frustrated and he dropped behind and moved to the other side to talk to the other girl. So I thought, well, buddy, two can play that game. So I dropped behind the girls and placed myself between them and the man once again. Still looking straight ahead, not saying a word. Finally, the man gave up and dropped away. After a little distance, when I could see he was truly gone, I sped up my pace and went on ahead to the hotel. You see, they live in a culture where women have no voice, but I don't. So I just brought a little of my culture to Morocco that afternoon. Not confrontive, not invasive, not offending, no conflict, just a subtle message. My philosophy is that I go as a guest. So I'm respectful of other cultures, even when I disagree with their practices. I'm always there to learn and to allow my own perspective to get expanded. Every day, I'm grateful for the opportunities I've had to see the world the way I have. And every trip I take, I'm always so very happy to return home again to my city, Portland. Thank you. Ask me anything.
Well, I love your talk, Leslie. That was awesome. You need your own show.
Oh, thank you.
Great.
So funny.
I'm jealous. I haven't been out of the country at all. How neat.
Oh,
Who has questions for Leslie? Just wave your hand. We've
looks
got
like
Nancy has a question. How about Nancy first and then Deb? And send me a message on the chat if you have questions and I'll call on you.
I'm just so impressed about your, I mean, it sounds like much of your travel was as a single woman. And, I'm just, hearing you talk about it, it sounds so absolutely exhilarating, exciting. And yet, I think I would feel a bit hesitant and fearful. I don't know if you can expand on that at all.
well, I'm not fearful. I think if I were, I wouldn't go probably or something. But I do trust my intuition, and I have gotten into places in a few cities where I'm like exploring, and then suddenly I realize, ooh, I shouldn't be in this part of town or whatever, and get myself out of it. But I trust my intuition quite a lot, and that has protected me.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Next we have Deb.
Leslie, I remember in 2009, I think it was, we were in the exotic location of Birmingham, England for the Rotary Conference. Where would you most like to return to? What would be your favorite or most interesting place after you tick off the next 6 states to return to?
Yeah, I am on this thing to do the next 6 states. So in June, I'm going to South Carolina to check that one off. But one of the places I want to return to is Barbados, of all places. I had such a great time there a long time ago. And I always thought I would come back there. So that's on my list to go again.
Awesome. Next up, Kate has a question.
Who?
Thank you, and thank you, Leslie, so much. It's I also, as others have said, admire your just tenacity, and you're just like, well, I want to go see that place, so I'm going to go. And what if I'm traveling by myself? That's fine. I'll figure out what I need to do to be safe and all of that. So a question I have for you is that since you have traveled to so many places, has there been changes, I guess I would say, in that last couple of decades that you've been traveling, that you've seen just I don't know, maybe more welcoming, or I know you said that you've seen the different cultures respond differently to white women traveling by herself, but has it changed at all in any way? Has there been more openness that you've seen, maybe generationally? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. It's more about culture and I found when I've traveled to largely Islamic countries, that's been really challenging just because of, you know, the way they think about women and women's roles. So I don't see that changing unless that religion changes. So yeah, I've always been very independent, and so whenever there's something I want to do, you know, I'll first ask a friend, oh, do you want to do this? And if they're not available or don't want to, I just go, because I know I'm going to meet people. I'm extroverted. I think you might know that. So I talk with people. I'm not afraid to open a conversation with anybody, anywhere. So that makes things a lot easier. But when I was a kid, or in high school, I used to love to ski, and I couldn't always find somebody to go skiing with me, so I'd go by myself. You know, so I just always have had that spirit to, all right, off I go. Adventurous, I guess, in that way.
That's awesome. I love it. Danielle has a question next.
Hi, Leslie. That great ending story. Thank you for sharing Morocco, having been there, but with a group. So I'm curious, I know that some of your trips have been Rotary related, but when you go to countries that aren't like friendship exchanges, et cetera, or the Rotary International Conventions, do you intentionally try to connect with Rotarians? Do you go to other Rotary Club meetings? Or is this just total vacation?
I have visited clubs when I've traveled, and that's pretty fun because every club is so different. And people are super welcoming and all of that. But I haven't really done a lot of connecting with Rotarians. I did join, Rotary International has an affinity group called Travel and Hosting, whatever they're called, the Travel and Hosting Fellowship thing or whatever. And so I joined that several years ago. And I really thought, as soon as I joined, I thought, oh, I'm going to have all these requests by Rotarians traveling to Portland to stay with me, which I would love. But that hasn't really happened. I've only had a few over the years. And I did look into that. I looked into meeting up with somebody in Australia from that group and in New York City from that group. But actually, neither of those ever actually came to pass. So the Friendship Exchange, if you don't know about Rotary Friendship Exchange, it's a great opportunity to visit another country and be hosted by Rotarians. So you actually stay in their homes and they take you around and show you, you know, the interesting things to see. And then they come, you know, to your home and stay with you for a few days. It's very fun and very interesting. So anyway, I think, yeah, Rotary really gives us a lot of opportunities.
I had no idea about the Friendship Exchange. That's really cool.
Oh, here's
no idea about that.
That's so cool about Rotary. Okay, at the convention in Montreal, I'm sitting there in the giant room with, you know, 30,000 people or whatever to listen. And during the break, I started chatting with the people right next to me, and it was an Australian couple. And I said, oh, I'm coming to Australia in a few months. So yay, where do you live? And so we're chatting, and they gave me their card and said, you know, look us up and come stay with us. And here we just met, right? And they're inviting me to stay with them. So before, as I was reaching for the card, I said, if you're not serious, about that, you should take your card back because I am the person who actually will come stay with you. And they're like, yeah, we love to have visitors. So I emailed them and I looked them up. They picked me up at the airport and took me to their home. And I have to say, for a few minutes, I'm in the backseat of this car of these two people, who I met for like 3 minutes. And I thought, nobody in the world knows where I am. And where are they taking me? I don't know. So anyway, but it turned out, as it does, it turned out to be fantastic. And they took me all over. I stayed with them for, I don't know, maybe 3 nights. And I went to his Rotary Club with them. And it was a blast. But, it's Rotary. So there's this trust.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway.
Already kind of a relationship. That's cool.
Exactly.
That's really neat. Next question we have from Scott.
Scott, where are you?
Absolutely wonderful talk. I love this story about Morocco. And you just touched the tip of the iceberg on all your stories. You got so many out there. But in all the places you visited, what are the 5 most beautiful places that you have visited?
Oh.
You can give 6 or 7.
Such hard questions. Well, of course, I have to say Antarctica. Antarctica was really like no other place. And of course, and so beautiful. And I never knew there were so many shades of white. And my girlfriend Cindy went there with me. And I'm so glad I wasn't by myself because she and I every day were like, having to remind each other that we're actually here. So I loved that. Oh gosh, Scott. I think Ireland was beautiful. It comes to mind as a, really beautiful country. I think every place has its own beauty and its own, is interesting in itself. So it's hard for me to pick. Paris is, of course, one of my favorite cities, and I've been there several times and was going to be there right now, but not quite happening yet. So anyway, I don't know how to answer it. It's a hard question.
Too many. You've been to so many. I imagine it'd be really hard. Next, we have Reem with a question.
Hi, Leslie. Thanks for your beautiful story and adventures. I enjoyed listening. So given that you've been, around the world, there's a lot of differences among people and cultures and thinking. Is there any commonalities that you can highlight for us? Is there anything that you can share that, or you think is common between people despite their differences? Do you think we're more different or are we more similar?
Well, we're all, I guess one of the reasons I feel confident to travel is because I feel like we're all connected, in some way. And so everybody I see is a potential friend. And that in my mind means we're all the same in some way. We all love, we all have hopes and dreams, and we all have pain. So that's what makes me believe that we can have world peace, and why I work for it.
Great. We have one more question from Funda.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking my question. I have actually 2. Have you been to Turkey before? That's where I'm from originally. And what other languages do you speak? Thank you.
Well, I speak some French, and I took it all through high school, and then I've taken classes again and again. And when I go to a French-speaking country, at first, I just, it's like, where is that? It's in my brain somewhere. I can't find it right away because I don't practice it. I took my niece to Paris a few years ago, and she was watching me struggle with the language for the first few days, and people would try to speak English to me, and I would tell them, no, speak French, because that'll get it back in my brain. And then one day, like about day 4, we're in a taxi cab, and I start chatting away with the taxi driver. We're just having this great conversation in French. And my niece was looking at me, and she goes, where was that? And I said, it beats me. It's somewhere in my brain, and it comes out after, a few days of listening and practicing. And yes, I have been to Turkey. I went there when I was running around the summer after high school. So I was 18, and I just went to Istanbul. So I don't remember very much except for the crazy drivers. I do remember that.
I are crazy over there.
Yeah, I was actually planning to go back there this August, but that got canceled, of course. So many disappointments, canceling everything.
Oh, but there will be another day. And thank you, Leslie. What great stories and all great questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Next week, we'll hear from Colin Fogarty from Confluence about the Indigenous people of the Columbia River. This meeting will once again be live via Zoom at noon on Tuesday. Well, thank you again for coming today, all of you. Kim, thanks so much for your thoughtful reflection and Rakaya's quote. Blake, Curtis, Patsy, congratulations on becoming new board members. We look forward to your service. Curtis, we appreciated your update on Enterprise Academy. And Leslie, again, what a great presentation. I asked you before the meeting started if you'd have any slides, but you didn't need them. Your word pictures took us around the globe.
It looks like Al might have a question. His hand is up.
Al, would you like to have a final question before we close?
Yeah, COVID has restricted your nature, Leslie, of being unable to travel for now a year. So how are you?
I'm very antsy to go somewhere. So I'm going to drive to California and at least do that next month. But I am planning to go to South Carolina in June, so that we'll check off that one, and Southeast Asia in November. So it's coming back.
And we know how much you hate Zoom, Leslie. So I'm so glad that you came onto this call, because I don't think the rest of the group realizes what a momentous event this is, that you joined a Zoom meeting. Thank you, thank you. As we enter into our new Rotary Week, please join me in opening the doors of opportunity for healing, recovery, and especially peace building. As Rotarians, we're here to make our world healthier, more sustainable, and with justice for all. Have a great week, everyone. It was great to see you. And this meeting is adjourned.
Thanks.